Third, the church at the beginning, at the beginning period of the church consisted primarily of Jews, and they were closer in time to Jesus than present-day Jews. They would therefore be in a better position to evaluate the evidence for the messiahship of Jesus than Jews in the modern day are. This is so especially in light of the facts which have transpired since that day, which give a false view of Christianity to some Jews. For example, anti-Semitism has been perpetrated in the name of Christianity. However, such anti-Semitism is contrary to the principles of Christian love and tolerance. Not only are Christians supposed to love and accept all races, there is a special admiration biblically for the ethnic Jew. The ethnic Jews gave us the New Testament and the Old Testament, the Bible. Jesus himself was ethnically Jewish. Christian anti-Semitism is a contradiction in terms. It doesn't make sense. How can anyone consistently love Jesus, an ethnic Jew, and at the same time persecute and hate ethnic Jews? Such anti-Semitism did occur, but it was only professing Christians. But it was only as the anti-Semitism did occur only as professing Christians acted contrary to Jesus in the Bible. The reason why I bring up anti-Semitism within the visible church, as opposed to the invisible church, is to illustrate the fact that sometimes Jews may mistake that anti-Semitism for being an accurate representation of Christianity. It is not an accurate representation. It is like a kosher Jew eating pork. The point is, it is epistemologically unjustifiable for a Jew to say, quote, Jesus could not have been the Messiah because his followers persecuted us, unquote. Emotionally, though, I can certainly understand how such an understanding could arise in the mind of ethnic Jews. And I apologize to all ethnic Jews who were mistreated in the name of Jesus or in the name of Christianity. So take these three reasons together for supposing that Jesus wasn't the Take these three reasons together. Next, it really does seem like a solid case for the messiahship of Jesus could be made from the Old Testament and the ethnical Jews of the first century. It seems then, when you really face the facts squarely, the first option is not tenable. In other words, from the Jewish perspective, the implication seems to be that Jesus is the Messiah after all, and so the Messiah has already come. The third option, and the final option, is that the Old Testament did not predict a Messiah. I think that is a ridiculously untenable position to hold. In the first century, ethnic Jews were expecting a Messiah to come because of Old Testament prophecy. Moses prophesied of that prophet or another leader coming after him, and Moses also recorded in Genesis chapter 3 verse 15 about the seed of the woman, Eve, crushing the head of the serpent. This seed was the Messiah who crushed the head of the serpent at the cross. Even if you think that interpretation of Genesis 3:15 is a stretch, it is hard to deny that the thrust of the Old Testament as a whole includes the idea of a coming Messiah. Jesus as Messiah should be part of Judaism, but, as we saw in the definition of Judaism, it is not. All things considered, the PC value on this question can only be -1. The second question that we ask of a position or a worldview is that of consistency. It seems to me that Judaism is inconsistent. In addition to denying the Old Testament Messiah, there is the question of sin. In the Old Testament, it is spelled out a particular sacrificial system. Certain animals are sacrificed in a certain way in the temple for certain sins. However, there is currently no temple. Jews would certainly like to rebuild the temple, but the Muslims have the Dome of the Rock where the temple is supposed to go, and they won't let the Jews rebuild the temple there. But the fact is that there is supposed to be sacrifice for sin on Judaism, and there is not. At least this is my understanding of the situation. If that understanding is correct, then -1. The third question. It is unlivable for the same reason that it is inconsistent. If there needs to be animal sacrifice in the temple for forgiveness of sins, and there is no animal sacrifice, much less a temple, then there is no forgiveness of sins. How can we stand before the holy God of theism if we are guilty? This unlivability has manifested itself, seemingly, in rabbinic tradition. Some Jews are very careful, I understand, to follow very precisely what they think God expects of them. But some of these extreme regulations can be very hard to follow, especially if there are a lot of them. It is impossible to live consistently with a lot of strict rules. Finally, if our good standing before God is based on living a holy life, as it seems to be on Judaism, how do we know when we've done enough, when we're holy enough? The idea seems to be that our good should outweigh our bad, but it is not possible to know when that happens. Psychologically and spiritually, this just doesn't work. In short, Judaism is unlivable. -1. -1. Finally, we come to the fourth question. It seems Judaism fails on this count as well. In addition to what has already been said, the love of God could be added. According to theism, God is essentially loving, yet love requires another person to love. Prior to the creation of humans and angels, God had no one to love. On Christianity, God is triune, so each person of the Godhead could give and receive love for all of eternity past. Judaism denies the doctrine of the Trinity, and so God's love cannot be essential. It cannot be part of his nature that he must be loving at all times. This is a contradiction with reality as understood through the lens of the theistic worldview, -1. Now, this idea about love within the Trinity is one we'll come back to multiple times, so make sure you remember that. Before moving on to the next position, I must reiterate that a low calculus score says nothing about the people within the worldview or the position in question. Jews are not bad people, though Judaism gets a low PC score. And there is much admirable within Judaism as a system of thought and action, as Judaism defined, as I'm defining the term here, the term Judaism here. All the low PC score shows is that relative to other positions within the same worldview, it is, relatively speaking, not so good. And also, this is an analysis of an intellectual position. It is false to say that the Jews, either ethnic Jews or Jews in the sense defined before, crucified Jesus, that the Jews did not crucify Jesus. That's a false claim. But even if it were a true claim, and it's not, then then that would be the actions of a group of people, and the actions of a group of people are very different from an analysis of the beliefs of a said people. So we're focusing more on the beliefs. Accordingly, Judaism gets a value of -4, and we will turn next to Islam. Shalom. So Jews are not Christ killers. I am the Christ killer by my sin.